All right, guys, we've got some news to get to here for college football on this Thursday. Sam Hartman, the big story over the past few days, he is officially cleared to return. Wake Forest star quarterback is back, and apparently he was dealing with some blood clots, which is really a scary thing for a dude as young as him. Great to see he's back. And Wake Forest had a very sneaky game at Vanderbilt that I think gets a lot easier with Sam Hartman. I believe that spread opened at Wake Forest -9 or -10. With Sam Hartman returning, I believe they're now 2-touchdown favorites. So that is big news in the ACC. Sam Hartman should be officially good to go for Wake Forest. And while I do think Wake Forest is a bit overrated, it still is a big return for Sam Hartman. This is a very interesting thing. Teams projected to lose every game they play. According to ESPN's FPI, the only team, and some of this is scheduling, but some of this is just Colorado is really bad. So Colorado is an underdog in every single game they will be playing in the season, and that's with a Pac-12 schedule. And guys, before the season started, people were telling me that Colorado State was actually better than Colorado. After watching Colorado State on Saturday against Michigan, I can't believe that, because Colorado State's a really bad football team. They won 3 games last year, but Colorado, they're one of the worst teams in the Pac-12. Actually, probably the worst team in the Pac-12 at this point, with Arizona football being back, getting that huge win in week 1. And yeah, Colorado right now, some of it is due to scheduling. Obviously, there are worse FBS teams. All right, so I actually just looked up Colorado's schedule. They've got a very tough non-conference. Week 1, they had TCU at home. TCU's a good team. Week 2, at Air Force. Air Force is a fringe top 30 team in college football, guys. If you're not on the Air Force hype at this point, Air Force is good, and they're like 17-point underdogs at Air Force. And then their third non-conference game is at Minnesota, who's kind of a dark horse pick for people to win the Big Ten West. So Colorado right now expected to lose every game. I'm sure they'll pick up 1 or 2 wins in the Pac-12, but I just thought that was crazy to look at. Next, we have Dabo Swinney, and this is kind of the big news of the day, at least right now, signing a 10-year extension through the year 2031, $115 million in total, second highest paid head coach now, behind only Nick Saban. He moves in front of Kirby Smart. I believe Kirby Smart is at $11.2 million per year. Swinney is at $11.5 million. I'm just trying to remember the numbers. But so Dabo, guys, my big takeaway, obviously Clemson's going to give Dabo Swinney whatever he wants. These contracts, the only thing that really matters is the amount per year. So Dabo moves into, the second place position behind Saban. The fact that it's through 2031, Dabo could leave next year. He could leave in 2024, 2025, whenever. We know these coaches, the contracts that they sign, they mean very little. And there's been this kind of theory that has certainly died down recently that Dabo Swinney is going to take over for Nick Saban at Alabama. But it looks like Saban wants to coach at least 5 or 6 more years after, signing that extension. So Dabo Swinney locks in at Clemson. I could certainly see Dabo Swinney coaching Clemson and not leaving at all. It's just a situation where it seems like Dabo is stuck in his ways, and he kind of controls Clemson. And I think Dabo gets too much criticism because people say that, he's not innovating, he doesn't like NIL or anything like that. The dude is still signing top 5 recruiting classes in terms of pure talent, in terms of average, like recruiting average. He's signing top 5 classes. So people sit there and say he needs to change. I mean, I'd understand it if he was recruiting like, Iowa, or if he was seeing a significant negative decline in recruiting. Clemson's not. They're still recruiting really good. They got the number one quarterback last year who's probably going to end up starting in a few games if DJ Uiagalelei continues to struggle. So Dabo Swinney signs the extension. We've got the major historic numbers on Ohio State, Notre Dame, the game that happened over the weekend, the top 5 matchup. Notre Dame, Ohio State, most watched regular season game on ESPN networks since 2017, 10.5 million viewers, and the top 5 markets are basically all controlled by Ohio State. The Columbus market, obviously Ohio State. Dayton market is Ohio State. Cleveland market is Ohio State. Cincinnati market is Ohio State. Indianapolis market is Notre Dame. So that is dominance, and this does not surprise me at all. They actually did a study a few months ago in the offseason about the team that has the actual most fans. Ohio State was number 1. I believe, if I remember correctly, Notre Dame was number 2. So obviously, if this is going to be a top 5 matchup, it's going to get ridiculous viewership, and that is crazy though. The most watched ESPN game since 2017. That is big stuff. We've got Iowa setting more records. Spencer Petras, Iowa's starting QB, who was in a quarterback battle in the offseason and somehow won the quarterback battle. He has thrown 1 touchdown in his last 7 games. 8 interceptions. 1 touchdown, 8 interceptions. And in 5 of the games, under 150 yards passing. Guys, this Iowa team is going to be so historic for being one of the best defenses and having one of the worst offenses. I think all of their games might go under. I know the over-under is only 40 with Iowa State this week, but Iowa has literally the craziest blend. Really, really good defense, 2 elite linebackers, 1 elite cornerback, and just a horrific offense. Literally the worst combination if you're trying to find a team that's entertaining. But it is crazy what's going on with Iowa. Big 12 commissioner on potential future expansion and what type of schools the Big 12 would want moving forward. Obviously, going out west is where I would like to go, entering that 4th time zone, a program that has national recognition. So, guys, the major stuff with the Big 12, this is really no news. The Big 12 commissioner has been very vocal and very public about wanting to expand, taking advantage of the situation that's going on in the Pac-12. It's on the brink of dying, and we still do expect at some point the realignment situation to be worked out with Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah. All of those 4 teams heading to the Big 12, which would make it a 16-team conference. And then, of course, we have Oregon, Washington, possibly also Stanford and California heading to the Big Ten, giving the Big Ten a legitimate West Wing. So that is still expected to happen, and this is just more public statements on the current situation. This is all just a matter of time. Understanding, remember, the Big 12 moved up their TV negotiation window because they want to show Colorado, they want to show Utah, they want to show those teams, if you join our conference, this is what we can offer you in a TV deal. It's X amount more than the Pac-12. That's what they're doing, so we will see how this ends up working out. We've got I found this tweet to be a little bit weird. I want to hear what other people think about this. Florida announces they sold out their top 25 matchup against Kentucky. Does anyone else find this a little weird? And this is nothing against Florida, maybe because they've had a few down years with Dan Mullen, that they didn't sell out games, but could you imagine Michigan announcing a sellout against a team like Wisconsin, like Ohio State announced, Alabama, A&M? It's just shouldn't the game be sold out? It's a top 25 game. You just beat Utah. Are we really doing victory laps over selling out an SEC top 25 opponent if you are Florida? Nothing against Florida. Maybe this is big for them. Maybe they don't normally sell out games. But I saw this tweet and I was like, this has to be announced. This is like a victory lap that you sold out a top 25 matchup. I will say Florida has had an unbelievably good start to their schedule. The situation that Florida has had, they start off unranked. They get a Utah team at home who's a top 10 team. Utah traveling across country, playing them. You have home field advantage. It's week 1. It's prime time. It's 90 degrees out. That's a good situation for an upset if you are Florida. It wasn't a big upset. I mean, Utah was only 3-point favorites, but still. And then week 2, you're at home again. You're facing another very beatable team in Kentucky, who I believe still has a few players that are suspended. So I think these first 2 games for Florida are great situations. Obviously, it would be easier if you were facing, Utah State and Miami of Ohio, but it's like you can pick up quality wins. And the games, it's not like you're facing Alabama week 1. You're not facing these very tough teams. These games are manageable. You can pick up quality wins, but they're manageable games. They're winnable games. Utah at home is winnable. They're favored, obviously, against Kentucky. I think they're 5-point favorites. This is a very good start to the schedule for Florida. And, of course, they are ranked number 12. We've got this confidence level for Michigan State football in their next 5 games. Likely W. Likely W. I think they're 35-point favorites over Akron. Akron, it took them overtime to beat St. Francis, PA on that opening Thursday night. Lean win. That'll be a good Big Ten game. Michigan State at home against Minnesota. Yeah, I would give Michigan State the advantage. At Maryland. Yeah, Maryland's not bad. That could be a tough game for Michigan State. 50-50 at Washington. That'll be a huge non-conference game for the Big Ten. That game reminds me a lot of, you guys remember Michigan State traveling to Miami last year? And I think I actually thought Miami was going to win that game. Michigan State ended up winning it. This is a very similar non-conference game for Michigan State. That will make or break their season. And then lean loss, they have none. And then likely loss, Ohio State. So guys, that Ohio State-Michigan State game, I believe it's in early October or like mid-October. That's going to be a big noon game. I'm 99% sure that will be a big noon game, which sucks if you're a Michigan State fan, but I'm 99% sure that will be a big noon game. We have upset alert. Teams on upset alert. Alabama at Texas, no. Arkansas, I believe, versus South Carolina. Maybe slightly, maybe. Texas A&M versus Appalachian State. I think A&M's winning that game. USC at Stanford. I think USC is going to annihilate Stanford. And it's going to be Lincoln Riley's big statement. I mean, USC has just so much more talent. Oklahoma State, I agree with that. I think Arizona State could beat them. Wake Forest is going to win. With Sam Hartman. West Virginia versus Kansas. West Virginia's going to win. And then Houston. Houston's not even favorites. Houston is, I think, 2-point under. Oh, no. Houston is favorites. I don't know. If they might be like 1-point favorite overall. And then this is a fan base check-in. Iowa, be concerned. Yeah, well, Iowa, if you're Iowa, there's just such a low ceiling for you. When you have that bad of an offense, it's like you're hoping for 9 wins. If you win 9 games, a miracle has happened because of how bad your offense is. Penn State, sit tight. Yeah, Penn State, I was a little disappointed in their game against Purdue. I thought they would win that game easier than they did, but you have to take the win. It's a tough place to play opening night, Thursday night. Utah, man, it sucks for Utah fans. Relax. They're 0-1. Oh, I feel so bad for Utah fans. But, I mean, yeah, they played good. Just that last interception, they had the game won. Or I wouldn't say they had the game won. They had a minimum of overtime guaranteed. Minimum. Clemson, if I was Clemson, I'd be concerned. That offense is still broken to me. It still is. LSU needs to be on fire. LSU hired the wrong guy. And they gave him, what did they give him, a 10-year contract or something? Yeah, I'd be really concerned. And then this is so this is very unique. Longest active FBS home winning streaks. Alabama is tied for 4th. Ohio State's not on the list. Michigan's not on the list. Clemson's number 1 by a mile. Georgia's not on the list. Cincinnati is 2nd. Oregon is 3rd. So Oregon is 19-0 at home in their last 19. Miami of Ohio, the most shocking one. Every year it seems like every MAC school is 6-6. Like they're all just average. So seeing Miami of Ohio win 14 straight home games, I never would have guessed that in my life ever. So I thought that was cool. But guys, that is going to do it for this update. We've got Dabo Swinney getting the major contract extension. That is the big news of the day. But guys, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.